welcome to the Empathy Day Festival. We're going to be sparking empathy with you, and this is a very special session because we're partnering with Refugee Week, which will be happening from 16th to the 22nd of June.
Refugee Week is a really important week in which we recognise the contribution of refugee people in our world today into our lives, that we celebrate the extraordinary resilience of refugee people as they begin to build their lives again in a new land, and that we understand the contributions of what people bring from their homelands, their skills, their empathy, their kindness, and how they can contribute to communities. Refugee Week really is a week in which we celebrate the most extraordinary powers that we all have as human beings to build our lives again.
So, a refugee is someone who has had to leave home, forced to flee because of violence or conflict, or they're at risk of being persecuted, which means punished for who they are because of their religion, their background, so many
So
things.
an asylum seeker is somebody that is asylum is safety. It's somebody that's looking for a safe place to call home. And it's when you imagine that you've had to leave your home, like as was talking about, as a refugee, you've lost your refuge, you've lost the place that's your safety, and so you have to go out and seek a new home. Seeking asylum is a very difficult process, and all of the characters in Aziz and my books are seeking a safe place to call home. And then when the governments say, yes, we recognize that you can't go back to your home, then you receive what is called refugee status, which means that you become a citizen of that new country.
And what I want to add to that is that some people might think, well, being a refugee is something that I can't relate to, something that's so far away from my life. But actually, as Sita said before, that we are all at risk of becoming refugees. Any one of us can become a refugee. And the most recent example is in LA, where there were wildfires raging and millionaires' homes were wiped out in an instant. And obviously, those people were millionaires, so they could afford to go to a hotel or buy another house or whatever. But things like that are increasingly happening. Wildfires, storms, flooding, etc., where people lose everything within hours overnight and they have to go seek refuge elsewhere. So sometimes that's in a sports center, if that's in, a country like England or America or whatever. And sometimes there is no help, so they go further afield to different countries. But ultimately, I think the main thing that Asita and I both tried to show in our books and through our characters is that this could happen to any one of us. And if we recognize that, we might be a lot kinder and understanding. So, we're going to talk a little bit about some refugees in our books. I'm A.M.Dassu, and I've written 4 books featuring refugees. And the one I'll be talking about today is my most recent called Kicked Out. But I'm excited to hear more about Sita's books. And I know that she has featured refugees in so many of her books too. So, Sita, which books have you written and which one are you going to talk about today?
Oh, hello, Az. It's so wonderful to be here, sort of celebrating the links between, Refugee Week and empathy, and those two things are right together in all of our work and stories. Yes, so I'm going to be talking today about Worry Angels, which is a little Barrington Stoke book. Worry Angels, illustrated by Jane Ray, is a story which is close to my heart because it really began working at the Islington Refugee Centre, which Jane and I have worked at for over a decade, where we sit around an art and writing table and we sit in community with people who've travelled from all over the world, and we create art and we have conversations, and the table looks a little bit like this. And it's a space, you can see the door is open onto a beautiful garden. And it's not exactly, in fact, how the refugee centre looks, but it's our kind of dream creative space. And it's a space where people can sit with their worries and paint and draw and move through difficult times together. And so Amy May's parents have just divorced, and she lives in Manchester. She's just moved to Manchester, and Rima has also just moved to Manchester from Syria and her family. And so they're both, meeting, but they don't have a shared language, a shared physical language. And yet, through the story, they discover all of the things they have in common. And even though their experiences are not the same, they realize that a lot of the things that they need are the same, like the love of their family, like making a new friend. And they make worry angels for each other. So that's my story.
That sounds beautiful. And actually, I think I'm a bit of a worry angel, and I'd like to write at that table too.
Think often when we hear about refugee people, we hear about the devastation of homelands through war or environmental pollution, or just not economically being able to stay where they are because families can't make a living. We hear about those stories in the news, and sometimes they're spoken in a way with lack of empathy. But why I'm really interested in Kicked Out as well is because I often see at the refugee centre how much people come together through things like football and how that can be kind of crossing languages. Tell me a little bit more about that.
In this book, you'll meet Ali, Sammy, Adam, and Mark, and you explore different themes that help you feel some empathy as they experience different things, particularly for Ali, what it feels like to grow up without a father and have him come back into your life. But also, there are two refugees in this book, Sammy from Boy Everywhere, who is now settled in the UK with his family here. He's at school, he's, enjoying football, being on the team, etc., and hanging out with his friends. But there's also Adam, who came to the UK at the same time as Sammy in Boy Everywhere. But this time you see how he's still struggling to settle because he came as an unaccompanied young person. And what that means is that he came without any parents or a guardian. And he lived on the streets before he could get any help. And it's been a struggle for him. And I wanted to show how Adam, although he's a similar age to all of the other boys in this book, he's working in the garden, in Mark's garden, illegally, because he can't work legally. He can't go to school. He should be doing his GCSEs, but he's not in a school yet. And he is about to be deported back to Syria, which is not safe yet, because the government have decided that he's an adult. And so, yeah, it basically parallels and shows the reality of what young people go through. But what's nice about this book is that all of the boys, so Ali, Sammy, Mark, they decide to, and as you said, use the power of sport and football to raise money for Adam to fight for his court case, to give him money to get a good solicitor to fight the court case to prove that he is, 16 years old and he should be able to live here. And in it, they all come together, and there's a celebrity footballer, and whether you like sport or not, it just shows how we can all come together as a community for the common good. And it's sort of empowering. So where Boy Everywhere looked at what it's like to be a refugee and how hard it is to leave home, this one shows you what we can do next.
As I think it's so important, isn't it? Because I think that, the way in which refugee people are spoken about, you would think that it was a kind of like a different species of person. Yet, in fact, the state of being a refugee could happen to any of us at any time in our
Exactly.
lives. If we had a flood, if we had a fire, and that's not to make people, traumatized or anxious and thinking that that's going to happen at any moment, because some people live much more settled lives. But I think in terms of empathy, it's really important to think about, isn't it? Like, if that was me and my family, what would I need other people around me to do? And I think it's really interesting that Kicked Out and Worry Angels, there's a connection between, you know, children, young people who are settled and those people who have had that experience. And I always think when I write, every book that I write, I learn myself a huge amount. It's not like, oh, lots of things. Every character that I step into the shoes of teaches me,
Yeah.
to be more empathetic or to understand something else about the world.
Amazing. Yeah, it's about making people feel seen. So yeah, even in Kicked Out, the boys aren't, they are doing something extraordinary by raising money, but it's actually that act of solidarity and just saying to Adam, well, we're here for you. Let's do this together. So, Sita, I would love to hear some of Worry Angels from you.
Listening is as we know, a massive part of what empathy is about. And just sometimes sitting beside people. So this is Amy May, and she's writing to her dad, who she's missing greatly. So Amy May is from Manchester, and her first language is English, and she's always lived in Britain. But she's lived by the coast, so she's had to move to the city. So she's writing to her dad, who's moved to the countryside. Dear Dad, I want to tell you about someone I've met at Grace's art house. I want her to be my friend, but she doesn't speak English. She's called Rima and she's from Syria. She's got twin brothers. One of them, Ali, had his leg crushed and he needs an operation. Rima's quiet and doesn't speak much, but she's got a translator called Iman. She taught me how to say,
أهلا وسهلا.
welcome. Love you, Amy May. I would just love to jump into Kicked Out with you.
So this is Adam speaking while they're all gathered around a table cutting tickets for a football charity match that they're going to organize to raise money so that Adam can, stay in the UK. And they're talking about Adam's journey here and how he met Sammy along the way in Turkey when he was on his own, and how his dad, helped him come over here too. And so this is Adam talking. If it wasn't for Sammy and his family, I wouldn't have anybody here. Adam smiled gently at Sammy and had a faraway look in his eyes. Do you want to go back when it's safe? Asked Ahmed, snipping off the extra paper or around his already cut ticket. More than anything in the world, said Adam. He dropped his scissors on the table. What do you miss the most? Wow, Ahmed was interviewing my boy hard. Adam smiled. Ah, I miss hearing Fairouz first thing in the morning. She's a famous Arab singer that so many Syrians wake up to. I miss my mum's food and douza. That's a stretchy, chewy Syrian ice cream. So much. His blue eyes sparkled, then his smile dropped. It's a year since I left, and I thought the war would have been over by now and we'd all have gone back, but it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. He shrugged. It's hard because we didn't just lose family and friends or our homes, we lost our whole lives, who we were. Sammy nodded hard as he cut around a ticket. Must be hard to start again from scratch, I said. I hope no one else ever has to do this after us. Adam picked up his scissors again and started cutting. I guess he was done talking.
It was so moving because those two boys are listening so close to each other and empathizing. But I mean, that's why in Kicked Out, I think that's so right. And I feel like it's obviously it's a very different thing, painting around a table and drawing around a table. But in a sense, it is the same thing. It's doing something else.
Yeah.
Sometimes doing something sometimes it's hard to kind of sit across a table and kind of not for us because we know each other quite well and talk and look into someone's eyes. That can be really difficult if you've had, difficult journeys. But if you're painting or drawing together, or if you're playing football, like in Kicked Out, and you've got a shared, we're all painting trees, we're all playing football.
Mm.
And, then that shared unifying vision can, sort of help you to just catch the eye of somebody and make a friend. We've come together for two reasons today.
One, to take one of the empathy challenges.
And two, to encourage you to be better empathy activists, putting empathy into action.
And making life better for other people around you. This is something you can practice every day, which will have a positive effect on your teachers, your friends, your family, or in your community.
So we all of us have rights under international laws, and children have special rights. You have special rights. You have the right to play, you have the right to express yourself freely, and everybody has the right to have a home that is safe and free from war or environmental disaster or for being harmed and hurt. So rights are a really important way, and child rights are a really important way for us all to come together in unity and think about what would it be like for each and every one of us if our basic human rights were not honoured. And that's what happens when you become a refugee and an asylum seeker.
So now's the time to pause this video, teachers, and all of you to have a discussion about what those rights might be and how you might feel.
Welcome back. So now it's time to make our empathy resolutions. Now we've had time to think about what kind of, feelings there are when you become a refugee. As for you, what is an empathy resolution?
It's a promise to use our empathy to make a difference in the world. So, to make a powerful empathy resolution, there are some things you need to consider. The first thing to remember is it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be about small, everyday behavior changes. These can still have a big ripple effect. An empathy resolution means that your promise is based on really understanding other people and their needs by walking in someone else's shoes. So, thinking outside of yourself and thinking about other people and what they might be feeling and what they might need.
Yeah, and I think that it's really important to, when you're making this promise or commitment, to think about the things that you also can offer and can give. Because, some of us are really good at football, some of us are really good at art, or love doing art, some of us love to write, some of us love to sing, dance, play a particular sport. And, when you're making one of these commitments, it's a really good idea to think about the things that you also enjoy doing and that you can share that joy of doing something with somebody else.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, it needs to be something you feel like like Cesar just said that you can really do and you keep doing because empathy grows the more you use it.
Earlier this week, we made our empathy resolutions.
So my empathy resolution is to slow down and spend time with refugees as I listen. And the reason I chose this year is because life is so busy and I'm always rushing around. And when I meet with refugees or I work with refugees, it's always for a reason, to give something quickly or to send an email quickly. And this year, I really want to slow down and spend time. So perhaps have a meal together, have a chat about other things outside of what's needed and really listen to their experiences that they're experiencing right now, as well as what they've experienced before.
My empathy resolution is to help the refugee people I work with share peaceful times together, painting, chatting, and storytelling. And here it is. The reason why I've made this resolution is because every week for about 12 years now, I go and do an art and writing class with my illustrator friend Jane Ray at the Islington Centre for Refugees and Migrants. And we sit together around a very friendly table where there are refugee people from all over the world. And we paint and we draw and we chat together. And as we relax, people who are very stressed because of the very difficult journeys that they've made, very traumatic journeys that they've made, we sometimes look at a piece of fruit or a flower, like the ones that I've drawn here, or doodle or daydream about beautiful things in nature. And as we draw and make art, we begin to make friends together about the things that are universal, the things that we all love. And we start to talk about things like the trees of home or our favorite flowers. And that's why painting, chatting, and storytelling is an empathy action. The other thing that we've been talking about is storytelling and reading. And so we're writing books because we want to help people to understand a different story about the experience of refugee children. So the other thing that you can do, which is an action, is reading, because what reading does, it sort of opens your mind and your world.
Now it's your turn. Teachers, pause the film so your class can either turn your list into individual empathy resolutions or you might decide to do a joint class resolution. You can make resolution bunting or a paper chain to display around the classroom or library or school. And we'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everyone. I so wish that I could see that your empathy resolutions, I'm sure they're going to be beautiful. Individual resolutions will be wonderful, but when they're all strung up together in a library or in a classroom, they're going to be beautiful. And I'd love to be able to wander round your classrooms and see what these resolutions are. And because, bunting can stay in a classroom or a place, it's a good reminder to know that it's not just about making this resolution right now, but it's something that you really want to commit to doing in your ongoing life. So I hope that that is the beginning of an extraordinary journey for you, a commitment to empathy and to helping refugee people as it has been for Az and I.
There are 8 more Creative Empathy Challenge activities to try. Check them out at empathylab.uk.
We have loved sparking empathy with you.
Thanks for taking part in the Empathy Day Festival. Whose story will you jump into next?